Welcome to Affected, a podcast from Meet. For those of you who don't know Meet, we are a global life sciences talent provider. We've been connecting the industry for over a decade, and now we want to share some of our insights and experiences with you. We'll be hosting monthly episodes, sharing thoughts from our leaders and industry professionals about job hunting and hiring in life sciences, as well as giving our network a platform to share their own experiences of building successful careers in an industry that affects us all.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 9 of Affected. This will actually be episode 10 if you include the Women in Leadership in Life Sciences one, which is crazy. We've nearly been doing this for a year now. Today I'm joined by two absolute rock stars of the life sciences recruitment world in Nick Antonelli, who this is their second time on the show.
Welcome back.
We've got to bring the people, we give the people what they want. They wanted more Nelly and we're providing them with more Nelly. And Elle Bains, who is going through an incredibly busy period at the time. We've just had one of our first academy intakes in a very long time at Meet, and Elle is helping head that up. So thank you so much for your time, guys. Elle, do you want to just tell the people a little bit about your recruitment journey, sort of how you got into doing what you're doing today?
So I started my recruitment journey 6 years ago now. I think when I kind of reflect back on it, I would say I kind of got into recruitment a little bit kind of blindsided, as do many people do. I had a sales background, kind of telesales, and then just kind of heard about the world of recruitment and joined a few different companies in which I would say I picked up kind of various different experiences across various markets, which I think led me to life science. I definitely think it's fair to say I was a little bit lost in my markets from kind of a few years in. I didn't really find a market that stuck with me or that allowed me to have the success that I wanted. I found kind of life sciences, and I think for me it was just that click, and it allowed me to kind of get to where I wanted to get to, and I think really allowed me to put my recruitment skills into kind of full force. I think validation, kind of automation engineering as a whole is definitely an area which is very, very special to me. It's an area I really, really get along with. And I think me personally, I think is a great market to be in, not being biased. Generally there's a real strong interest there, and it's definitely one of the biggest kind of contract markets that there is. So kind of says it all.
And Nick, since the last time you were on the show, you've stepped into a more client services kind of role at Meet, which is a really exciting function we've got going on there. I don't know if you'd like to explain a little bit about that function and sort of what your role is in that.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, Meet has been through huge amounts of growth and change over the past few years. I don't think there's a life sciences focused business that didn't see significant growth and change throughout the COVID period. And our business dynamics, our ways of working, our operational structure significantly shifted along with that. I mean, just thinking on a real simple level, the international scale, we've grown from being a London headquartered business to having 5 international offices, so New York, San Francisco, San Diego and Berlin. We've significantly grown our contract business throughout that time. Since then, we've also added additional service lines such as our partnerships model, offering MSP and RPO services, building in Meet Executive, which is the executive search brand within our organisation. So as our business has become more complex, as our geographical reach has spread, it became really obvious that we needed a client services team that connects the dots between all the services Meet can offer and the clients that we partner with on a day-to-day basis. So I've moved into a head of client services role for our EU business, and that's working across all of our markets, all of our geographies, and all of the clients we partner with to make sure they understand the full suite of services Meet can provide, and make sure really they're being connected to the parts of our business that are probably going to be most relevant to their needs here and now and potentially in the future.
So busy first half of the year for both of you. And it's crazy to say that. It does feel that this first half of the year has just absolutely flown by. And, as we know, 2023 was a bit of a roller coaster year for not just life sciences, but I would say the world as a whole. And there were so many macroeconomic factors that really played a part in sort of shaping what our markets look like and other companies' markets look like at that time. That made it incredibly difficult for us to predict what 2024 would look like. And sort of as we sit here now, somehow 6 months in, has the market reacted in kind of the way that you may have anticipated at the end of 2023? or has it been a complete surprise to you in terms of what things have how things have panned out?
I mean, for me, I think 2023 does somewhat kind of fall back into COVID in a sense, particularly for recruitment. I think that when people and kind of organisations were going through that kind of hiring phase, and when COVID was kind of at its peak, recruitment was, I think, kind of at a point in which it excelled massively. I think organisations were able to secure talent that they perhaps couldn't have previously due to location or kind of various other factors. But I think because that hit such a peak and it went kind of extremely high in terms of the amount of hires that were made, that then definitely had a knock-on effect for businesses then actually having to kind of reel it back, which for me, I think definitely kind of trickled down into 2023, which is where businesses maybe found it that little bit more kind of difficult because everything was so good, going so well, and then everything that goes up has to come down. So yeah, I definitely think that I didn't expect the market to open up how it has. I think now at the minute, engineers are extremely sought of across validation, automation, QA, and I think people genuinely appreciate great talent at the moment. I definitely find that people aren't scared to kind of hold back on paying kind of the prices for good talent when they see the results of that. So yeah, I think in answer to your question, it definitely has kind of trickled all the way back from COVID and it fell into now. But yeah, no, I think the market's at the best ever been at the moment, fingers crossed.
Do you think that sort of had an effect on time to hire as well? When we look back at 2023, we actually put out a piece, Emily put out a piece, our content writer, that suggested that the average time to hire for a permanent role was 60 days, which is a long time. Yeah. Have you seen sort of a little bit more of a normalisation in that time to hire process with your candidates and clients?
I think that at the moment there is definitely a more, I would say, focus on with contracts, with people and hiring managers taking it a lot more. When I say seriously, I think previously it was if it was a great candidate, if it was a great contractor, just get them in. Whereas now people are looking for contractors to really be embedded in the project. So therefore, it is taking a little bit longer than what it usually does, but when they hire it, when a contractor is hired, it's not your average 6 months, it's not your average 12 months. It's they want people embedded in that project because they know like getting good talent is going to be the end result of a good product, a good manufacturing facility, a good kind of, whether it be tablet, whether it be fluid, whatever it is that's being manufactured, they know that it all stems from bringing in good contractors to deliver that. Yeah. So people are definitely starting to take that a lot more seriously.
I think there's another level to that as well, and it's not just within sort of validation, quality, technical operations. Across the board within the pharma world and the biotech space, we've seen the demand for flexible workforce really increase. And what I mean by that is the blend of permanent employees versus contractor staff has been much more favoured towards contracts. Traditionally, you'd see companies go to an 80-20 split in favour of permanent. We've seen companies go as low as 50-50, 60-40 being the norm in a lot of places. And that's for a number of key factors. I mean, companies need the talent within the business and you can't shy away from that. And within the contractor freelancing world, there is some amazingly skilled individuals who can bring huge value to get projects off the ground. There's naturally the fear that I can't think many companies didn't overhire during that COVID boom. And unfortunately, the downside of that, when you see companies go through restructuring, the redundancies, the processes, the costs, the time, the effort, the energy that's involved in that is hugely significant and often damaging. So companies really relying on flexible workforce solutions and staffing their business slightly differently is, I wouldn't say it surprised me, but it's definitely been a trend that I'm seeing becoming more and more prevalent within the industry. On top of that, we're probably seeing companies start to rethink about their own internal business models, so flexible workforce being one of them. The other being strategic direction, and if I look at Meet's global business, the number of executive level roles that are coming our way, senior leadership positions, traditionally what you tend to see during a restructuring cycle is you get the leadership people in place, then they drive the strategy, and then the operational hires come through. So I think for the first 6 months of 2024, we've seen a huge amount of executive leadership and senior strategic roles come available to us, where Meet have been engaged often on confidential searches, exclusive partnership agreements, where we've been able to really understand not just the technical skill set, but the soft skills, the personality types, the cultural fits that are going to be really important to drive this change within companies. And the expectation is, and touch wood, it continues to work in this way, is that once those hires are embedded into organisations, then the operational hires come underneath. So it's been a challenging market. I don't think you can deny that, but it's been probably better than we were anticipating. We always anticipated a tough 2024. I think companies were still going through their own re-strategizing and restructuring projects, but as Elle said, we've definitely seen a huge increase in contract requirements for that flexible work piece. We've seen a huge demand for senior and executive level hires for those executive level roles. And what we're expecting and anticipating to see in the next half of the year is some of the more operational and hands-on positions come live. But I'd expect that still to be a real blend between permanent and contract solutions, because I don't think companies will want to move away from having that flexible staffing model that they've got at the moment.
From a market standpoint, with the markets you've been working in, have you seen certain markets maybe sort of hire a little bit more frequently than we may have anticipated coming into this year?
Go on.
I think for me, automation definitely has been a lot more successful than validation. I think there definitely is a need for kind of a blended mixture of skills in terms of various different kind of manufacturing systems. I think it's fair to say I have been finding hiring managers being very much open to being consulted and actually addressing us, having a chat, understanding what exactly it is they're trying to achieve, and working with them to find a solution. So if they're looking for a team of individuals to come in and develop a facility or get a manufacturing kind of system put together, actually rather than picking various different experiences, various different skill sets, they're very happy and open to actually understand what the market looks like and work with us and allow us to advise them on what trends are, what price points are, as opposed to when maybe hiring managers were kind of stuck in maybe just, for example, a HR kind of sign off. Now it's actually about, well, what do you need to achieve? How are you going to achieve that? And let's put a plan together. I think as well, managers are, again, kind of as I touched on earlier, they're very appreciative of great talent at the moment. And if there is candidates that are available that perhaps weren't previously, they're open to having that conversation about what rates look like, which I don't think the market's been like this in a very long time. So yeah, I'd say for me, that's kind of my thoughts on that. But what does it look like over in your world?
So across the board, I think the most common trend has been the increase in commercial hires. And what I mean by commercial is pretty far-reaching, whether that's communications specialists, marketing, salespeople, key account managers, medical affairs advisors. And from the feedback I'm getting, a lot of it boils down to the fact that companies are having to maximise their assets. So, I mean, a really good example is Galapagos. Galapagos had two lead indications. I think one focused within immunology, the other within oncology. The cash runway, the ability to invest in both from an R&D point of view isn't always available. So they've had to make a priority choice and lead with their oncology product. That means building up teams that are ready to develop, but then to commercialize. I look at other companies we've partnered with a lot with, and are building their sales teams, their key account management groups, their communications specialists. That typically hasn't always been the busiest area for Meet Recruitment, but across the past 6 months, we've definitely found the demand increasing. So we've had to re-strategize our own business a little bit internally and make sure we're set up to be able to deliver into that, because we've got to follow the needs within our clients. And yes, certainly companies who are looking to maximize their assets are looking to try and figure out how can they best do that. And often that means bringing really great commercial talent into your organization.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on something that you were saying there in terms of sort of hiring managers being a lot more open to sort of working with maybe recruitment specialists such as ourselves. And I think one of the things that really gets overlooked in terms of partnering with a talent solution like Meet Recruitment is it's not just finding someone who's going to find you the right role. It's also that we have a data and analytics team. We can provide you with those salary insights. If you need sort of that data and that market mapping, those are the things you really get when you partner with sort of a specialist like ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say it's cost, but I think that's probably not fair. It's actually value that clients are really, really appreciative of. So value can be excellent skill set, incredible technological understanding that can add huge value to the organisation, but it comes at a price.
Yeah.
Value could be the data and insights around competitor analysis, pricing, salary benchmarking. But we are seeing a lot more collaboration within our clients, and companies are looking to us for so much more than just the traditional, here's a CV, make your own choice. They're looking for the insights, the data, the guidance. And again, I think Meet have positioned themselves really well with the ISM function, with the data and analytics tools that we've got available to us, that we can help companies not only hire good candidates, but add value to the hiring process as well. And I think that's become a real crucial thing as every company is looking to maximise value in any of their processes, whether it's recruitment or whether it's AI. I think value add is huge across the board at the moment.
I think as well, just kind of touching on a point that you mentioned about the combined kind of permanent and kind of contracting opportunities that are out there at the moment. I am definitely finding that hiring managers are very, very open to actually understand that there's an urgent requirement, that there's a skill gap within the team, but because of the impact that is then having on the project delivery, people are definitely in positions where they're open to bringing in a contractor for, let's say, 6 to 12 months and then transitioning them into either a permanent role or allowing us to find someone in the meantime. But kind of then rolling on the back of that, I think that organisations, again, they're very, very open to allowing the blended mixture of people coming together in a team, kind of combining that, but as well as that people are definitely kind of seeing a rise in project delivery teams, again, kind of after COVID, definitely starting to ramp up from there. But yeah, the market is absolutely thriving, I would say, from that standpoint.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a funny time though, isn't it? Because we went through a stage where I don't think any company would say they absolutely nailed their COVID strategy. So whilst it's busy, we're still picking up the pieces and trying to learn from our errors, our mistakes. And I think one thing you pointed out really well is companies are so much more focused on the deliverables. What's the end result? Previously it was we had headcount and we get the delivery and then the projects will take care of themselves. I don't think that's the case anymore.
No.
I think they're looking a little bit more creatively and strategically about what's the best way to achieve the main objective. Statement of work, we're seeing huge increase in demand for that piece, where it's less about the individuals delivering the work, but it's what's the project, what's the timeline, and what's the cost to be able to get from A to B. And again, it's just another example of where companies are thinking a little bit differently to the way they solve some of the challenges that they probably face on a day-to-day basis. So
what I'm hearing is there are some serious green shoots in this market right now. That's a phrase we use an awful lot internally, sort of, especially when we're looking ahead. In your opinion, how does the second half of 2024 look? I mean, what I'm thinking is sort of what are the triggering points that we're seeing from companies who are ramping up their sales teams, whether it be patents ending or approvals, budgets being signed off. What are those triggers that you're seeing that are really like, okay, this is why we're ramping up for filling out our teams essentially?
Yeah, there's a couple of parts to that. I think each company is different in their own situation. Restructuring is playing a huge part of that. I think a lot of companies have used the first half of this year to see what interest rates have been doing, to see what investment into the space has been doing. I've got no doubt companies with a strong cash runway have been really careful about how they've spent that. So I'd imagine there's companies who've got quite strong cash stockpiles but are thinking carefully about how to invest, how to spend them. You'd expect now the re-strategizing and structuring has taken place that people start to be a little bit more confident. I mean, we've seen interest rates globally start to come down. I don't think you can ignore, and we used to always believe that the life sciences industry was exempt from macroeconomics, but I think that's just not the case anymore. But hopefully with positivity coming from a macro point of view, I think we'd expect to see companies being a little bit more confident in their investment strategies and looking to spend, because ultimately that's what life sciences is. It's about investment, it's about research and development, and it's about innovation. You can't do that without the fiscal investment that becomes really crucial. And my hope is that we'll start to see more confidence in the market and people start to invest in some of their longer term objectives as opposed to moving from survival mode.
Yeah, I think I would say I definitely agree on that as well. One thing that I think will begin to ramp up is at the start of the year, we see a lot of manufacturing facilities begin to get their construction off the ground. And as a result of that, it has to go into manufacturing, actual execution systems, automation systems, validation processes. It all has to begin in order for their end result, which is the product to be released and kind of finalised. But I would say that at the moment, there is definitely a trend in competition between facilities, whether it be a biotech, whether it be a pharma, and we're really going to start to see that pick up at the moment. There was 2 particular kind of biotechs that were in a position and a phase where there was a lot of competition, to say the least, and you would notice consultants or kind of candidates, should I say, finish in one particular organisation and go into the next. And I definitely feel that we're going to start to see a lot of that. Competitors are going to begin to go head to head a lot more. There's going to be a lot of competition. I definitely feel there's a lot of facilities that have been in construction for quite some time now, and through conversations and kind of understanding the market a little bit, we are going to, I think, start to see a lot of pick up in engineers being brought into facilities to get things off the ground, which then as a result of that is going to have to go into kind of manufacturing. But yeah, no, I definitely think the market is 100% going to get back into that competitive edge.
It's a really interesting point though, isn't it? Because it's like who wins in that environment? And we see it a lot. I think permanent recruitment is very susceptible to this. At the start of the year, the belief was that companies could hire pretty easily. The reality is there was a lot of candidate populations who were quite nervous about making the jump, so it was quite a cautious market. Now we're starting to see the candidate pool become a lot more active, but clients still believe that candidates should be very grateful receiving offers, and that's not to say that's not the case, but companies need to be really cautious of that mindset, because we are seeing companies start to compete for talent once again. We are seeing candidates start to being a little bit more selective. They're not backed into a corner where they have to select the first role that comes available to them. As companies are continuing to invest and we're seeing the hiring needs increase, we are going to see more and more competition for talent. And unfortunately, recruitment is pretty cyclical, and it's a balance of power. And at the moment, we're in a little in between time. But I'd expect, as you said, as we get moving towards the second half of the year, good candidates are going to have options. They're going to have choice. Those that sit and wait or try and hedge their bets more often than not lose in those types of environments, those types of markets. So I'd expect the companies that are bold, that are confident, are the ones that will probably succeed in snapping up the best talent first and foremost. So
what would you say to those companies to, just to make, to advise them to not be left behind when looking for great talent? What would sort of your advice be to them?
Be thorough in your process. I do think companies should be selective about who they bring into their business. I think they should be more thoughtful than just looking at the skill set. They should be looking at the whole picture around the motivations, the personality type, the culture fit, and align that to what the business needs at the moment. And I think that's become really crucial. We've probably learned that through overhiring in COVID, that people just weren't aligned to company values and cultures. But so be really cautious during your interview process. But when you find someone that you think can add value, do not hesitate, because it's the hesitation that causes people to lose. So I actively encourage companies to run a really structured interview process. I encourage them to get the various different stakeholders involved and meeting the individuals, because that creates buy-in from both parties. But the painful thing that you see far too often is that when you know you're there, they wait. And that's the bit I'd advise companies to avoid doing, because the market's not allowing it at the moment. You might have gotten away with it 6-7 months ago, but at the moment it's just not happening, unfortunately.
I think just touching on what you said, it is the most frustrating thing when you go through such a rigorous process and candidates speak to various different stakeholders, and then you get to a position, it's like, oh, I'm not 100% sure, or for whatever reason, but you know that there's a genuine interest and you want to bring that candidate in, but putting that on pause and then checking in with me 3 months later, 4 months later for that candidate to be engaged in one of the best projects that they've ever worked in, it definitely hurts to have to go back and relay that information. But I think as well, touching again on what you said about making sure that you are being rigorous and advising kind of hiring managers to be thorough within their process. I think a thing that I do a lot is I just book in interview slots. Make sure that you're having, just whether it be a 30-minute chat, whatever it may be, just making sure that there is that time in the diary set aside to have that conversation, because that way the candidate's being kept engaged, the hiring manager's being kept engaged, and it's just kind of convenient for both parties. And as a result of that, in an ideal world, you do end up getting the candidate that you want, and the hiring manager gets the candidate they want. So it's a win-win on both sides.
It's funny, isn't it? 'Cause I think we can all look back and think about hires we've made that we've probably regretted in the past as well. The reality is the times are very different. If I think about 21, 22 as years, we were placing candidates after one 30-minute video meeting because the market went so crazy that companies have probably been burnt, but for the wrong reasons. And that creates scar tissue. That takes a bit of time to get over. But that's probably where the partnership and the value add of an agency partner can really come in, to be honest, because we can advise you on what your competitors do, and we can advise you on sort of what the best interview process looks like, what the sort of timelines you should be trying to work towards in order to secure the best talent, and we can give you confidence that you're doing the right things. And then the final piece is reference check. In this day and age, I think if you look at our contract book, the number of accredited consultants and contractors we've got on our books that have already been on assignment through Meet Recruitment come to us, ask for our top talent, ask for those references, we can take away a lot of that anxiety for you. But that's more often than not what the pause is an anxiety because of scar tissue from being burnt in the past. And I get it, I've done it myself, and I've hesitated on really good people because I've made a snap decision and hired someone a little bit too quickly in the past. But the reality is I probably didn't interview them thoroughly enough. I didn't test them well enough, and I didn't reference check them fully. But if you do all of those things well and make quick decisions, you should be in a really good position to be able to hire.
I think just with that as well, kind of going back to more kind of candidate side, candidates at the moment are very particular about who they are represented by. I think going back maybe a year, 2 years, candidates wouldn't care. I found who represented them. It was more what opportunity was it, what was the rate, what was the company. Whereas now, people want to be represented by people that know what they're talking about, the connections that they've got, the hiring managers that they work with, and candidates definitely are selective with who you're working with, maybe the consultant internally, the agency, but it's definitely not how it used to be, particularly in life science. If you are not being, I would say, thorough with your candidates, if you're not kind of managing that process the way that they would like, they just won't work with you. And I definitely think that they're well in their rights to have that approach. But yeah, I think that's definitely where the market's going from my...
It's a really good point, because clients are doing it the same. And one of the trends that we've probably not spoken about is the number of exclusive partnerships Meet are engaged in at the moment. I think companies are tight on resource because they've restructured, they've downsized in certain situations. If you look at the TA community and the internal TA community, a lot of those internal talent teams have been significantly downsized. And as the role requirements increase, there's a capacity challenge which they naturally face. They don't have the time to be working with 5, 6, 7, 8 different partners. So we're seeing the vetting stage to bring on an agency much more rigorous. But when they do partner with us, it's an exclusive partnership, and we find the benefits of that so much more significant. But exactly as you said, that's exactly the way candidates are working with us as well at the moment. Candidates are taking their job search as seriously as clients are taking their candidate search. And I think having a partner that you can trust as part of that, who can offer advice, guidance, and manage the process successfully, is becoming really, really crucial. And I think that the amount of candidates we're engaged with on an exclusive basis, but it mirrors the number of clients we're partnering with exclusively at the moment, and it talks to companies, as said, wanting value from their partners, and ultimately being really time short, so needing people they can trust to just do what needed to be done.
As you said, it's no longer just a case of, listen, here's a bunch of CVs, you pick the best one you want. I just want to pivot slightly and talk about sort of some of the great things we've seen in 2023, the beginning of 2024, sorry. I think one of the things that really excites me about working in this industry is sort of seeing companies do amazing things, creating life-changing drug and techs that really affects people's lives. And our ethos at Meet Recruitment is life sciences affects us all, and it's hard to say that we haven't all at any time not been affected by something that has needed the work of a candidate we've placed or whatever. So I think that's really special to be a part of that. I was just wondering if there's any businesses out there that you've spotted in the first half of this year that you've just sort of been like, wow, okay, this is some really cool work that they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most obvious one, which I'm sure most people are aware of, is Novo Nordisk and Ozempic. You cannot avoid the impact that drug is having. And I think a lot of the press on it, honestly, is probably misdirected, unfortunately, because it tends to be about celebrity usage and almost used as an aesthetic product to help weight loss. And I think that really discredits everything that drug has been designed to do. Obesity globally is one of the biggest health crises we are going to face as a global community. And not everyone has the ability, the affordability, the social environment to be able to cope with that themselves, and the health risks from that are huge. And Novo Nordisk have created a product which, I'd love to say I understand it fully, but inhibits the appetite through controlling hormones. So traditionally, I know friends or family members that have had gastric bans, and that's hugely intrusive, often ineffective, and has huge additional consequences to later life. And here we've got an injectable drug that inhibits the hormones that target hunger, and the results seem absolutely incredible. And I think that should be credited massively to that company, because the impacts that could have on world health could be absolutely huge. And yes, the headlines will be around the celebrities and look at the weight loss, but actually I think people are completely missing the point about the obese suffered from severe health issues, the pressure that puts on the healthcare services across the world, and the impact that could have to help cure and solve obesity globally, I think is massive.
Amazing. You can actually read about 6 new treatments that are tackling obesity. Is one of Emily's latest articles. You can find that over at www.peoplewithchemistry.com/media-hub. It's not the first time I've done that. What about you, Elle?
I think just relating back to kind of Novo Nordisk, whilst Ozempic is incredible and obviously touching on the headlines being kind of around celebrities, I think actually when you look into it in thorough detail, the work that went into that drug, I started hearing about that manufacturing facility, I would say when I first got into validation, which was about 3 years ago now. So 3 years ago, hearing about this drug, and then that was being manufactured. So that would have definitely had a lot of time that had gone into that, for the research, the discovery, for kind of quality assurance, kind of everything to get that drug to where it needs to be. But I think Eli Lilly for me are up there. I think you just don't stop hearing about kind of what they're getting up to. Touching on Ozempic, they're again creating something very, very similar at the moment, which is, as I mentioned on the competition piece, there definitely is a competitive edge. Whilst Lilly are kind of formally out in the US, in their Indianapolis site is definitely kind of taking some force at the moment. I would say Eli Lilly definitely are kind of creating some amazing things, whether it be a lot of I believe there's one at the moment that they're looking to look into around HIV, which is incredible. Obviously, it's a disease that hasn't yet found a cure, but with some of the research that's going into it, they do kind of brand themselves on essentially hoping to make a breakthrough. So fingers crossed for that. But I would say that Eli Lilly in general, for me, are a business that not only do I see great talent coming from, managers are very open to the whole kind of consulting piece. I think they're very, very open to having good talent. They take manufacturing extremely seriously, not only from the systems that they implement, but just the process behind it, the methodology, the applications that goes into that. So for me, I'd say Lily are definitely up there.
Amazing. Listen, guys, I know it's taken some time out of your day to stop and chat to me here at Affected, and I really, really appreciate that. One of the things I really like to do before we leave is just to get a piece of advice from each of you regarding something recruitment related. And as we look forward into 2024, I just want to know what you would say to some hiring managers now or some life sciences businesses now about recruiting in the latter half of 2024. For me, my big thing is recruiting for 2025 starts now, right? Like if you're looking to build out your teams early 2025, now is the time to start thinking about those kinds of bits and pieces. What's your advice in regards to sort of recruitment in the latter half of this year?
Yeah, so from my side, I'd advise companies to go and seek advice themselves. And what I mean by that is we've already touched on what other companies are doing with blended workforce, flexible staffing solutions. We've seen huge amounts of investment into commercial teams where you can rip up the traditional way of recruitment. I mean, have been involved in some amazing partnerships earlier this year where we've almost run, I don't want to call it speed dating, but we've built 100 people commercial teams by doing in-person events. We rent conference room and we source and bring 100, 150 potential candidates into the meeting. We get the recruitment process done within a weekend, and you can build 30, 40 person sales teams. That's new. That's not been done in the past few years. We've got partnership-led models where we embed teams into your recruitment business, and we don't just find candidates, but we offer strategic advice. We give you access to our data and insights teams. What I'd say is don't think the only way you can recruit is the way you always have done. Yeah. As you start ramping up for 24 and 25 hiring, seek advice, talk through what your needs are, and see which model is going to be best suited for you, because it's so much more diverse in terms of the way companies such as me can support your business to grow.
There's no such thing as one size fits all recruiting, is there? There is a solution for you out there, regardless if you're a startup or you're a multinational big pharma company. That there is a option for you that will target what you're trying to do with building out your teams. What about you, Elle? What's your piece of advice?
I would say for me, in my world of engineering, candidates with a combination of skill sets. So whether it be Delta V and a mixture of a bit of CSV, or whether it be NEAT and kind of equipment validation, kind of all wrapped in one, whatever it may be. If you come across a candidate that has all of that, you have a conversation with them, you like them, but you might not have a need for them right now, make room, because your competition will. And candidates like that genuinely are extremely difficult to find. They don't stay around long, and when they are on the market, they're gone. So if that is something that you traditionally struggle to hire, if it's something that you aren't able to kind of secure previously, whatever it may be, and we find you one, or whether it's someone else that finds you one, don't hold back on bringing that person in, because it's only going to be your competition or another pharma or a biotech that will secure them. So if that is a candidate that you generally struggle to find, make the move is definitely something I would suggest.
Thank you so much, guys. What's the rest of your evening looking like after this, filming this sort of towards the end of the day on a Tuesday?
I've got a train back to Cheltenham.
Fantastic. What's that, 3 hours?
Unfortunately,
hours?
so it is, 3 hours.
What about you, Els?
Interviewing.
Yeah. Els is one of the busiest people at the company at the moment. I've just seen her running around. She's been limping around actually after your tumble in. Where was it you?
Morocco.
Don't talk about the toe.
Don't. I get PTSD. Let's switch. Let's talk about something else. Let's go back to the recruitment process.
Yeah. No, listen, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I really can't thank you guys enough. And all I can say is thank you to the Pod Shop, which is actually our new home for the Affected podcast. This is an amazing space. Spike and his team do some really, really amazing work here. So if you're looking for a podcast solution or a studio, this is a great place to be. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much, guys. Join us next month for episode 11 of the Affected podcast. I think we're closing in on a year now, which is wild, all things considered. This is almost my second year at Meet, which is
Wow.
It's felt like...
That has gone quick.
Yeah, it really, really has.
That has gone quick.
I've aged dramatically over that time.
If anyone wants to laugh, go on my LinkedIn page because it's a picture of me from, I believe, 2016. I've weathered a little bit since then.
I think aged like a fine wine is...
thank you.
is more...
Apologies. I misworded it.
Listen, guys, thank you so much. You can find out any more insights on the life sciences industry over at our media hub on our website, which is www.peoplewithchemistry.com. I just want to sign off with saying, if you are looking to build out your team, or you're considering building out your team within the second half of 2024, the easiest thing that you guys can do is reach out to these guys and just have a conversation with them. There is no harm or cost involved with just having that conversation. So reach out to the guys and they'll be more than happy to help. And I'll see you next month on the Effective Podcast. Thank you very much. Bye.